Covers, the show for readers and writers and lovers of books. I'm Stephanie, and I'm a publisher at Red Penguin Books, where we work with authors of all types and genres. So whether you have a book in your head, a computer file ready to go, or maybe 300 sheets of loose leaf shoved into a drawer, whatever shape it is, visit redpenguinbooks.com and unleash your inner author. I am so thrilled today to be joined by three authors who have absolutely unleashed themselves. Debbie O'Fee wrote, "I'm Sorry, Jimmy Muscle, Why My Son with Autism Wanders." I am so excited that she's here to share the answer to that question and also to open our eyes so we gain some understanding about her son and autism. William Schumpert wrote The Lakeside, and you could tell from that picture, it's not the happiest lake. So we're going to find out about that. I see him laughing when I said that. Might not be the most relaxing vacation destination. And then Gloria is going to talk to us about Restora Hypnosis. I figured we would end with a faith-based journey for spiritual wholeness. So please welcome first Debbie O'Fee, I'm Sorry, Jimmy Muscle, Why My Son with Autism Wanders. Thanks for joining us, Debbie.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so delighted that you're here. And wow, I mean, I can't even imagine a son that wanders, and now you even wrote a book on top of it.
Yes, I felt like I had to, actually.
Really?
Yeah. So I just start, you just want me to go into it?
Please tell us about tell us about your son, certainly, and how you got started writing this book.
Okay. My son, Ryan, is currently 11 years old. He was diagnosed with autism a month before he was 3. We had just moved to Long Island from Queens. I have a cousin who at that time was probably pre-teens, and he had autism since he was young also. I kept reaching out to my aunt to ask her questions about what happened when, even though they do tell you when you're raising a child with autism not to compare to other children with autism, but it's just something that you can't help but doing.
Absolutely.
Every time I would ask my aunt, when did Andrew do this? When
Debbie, can you repeat that? Debbie, can you repeat that?
So I would find myself then going back and reading what went on, what had occurred. And I would find myself fascinated that we had, just lived that hours or days before, months before, we'd always go back to the journals. A little bit further into Ryan's diagnosis, one day when my dad was watching the 2 boys, I have another son. When you have a child with autism, you call the other son or the other child typical child. That's to try and avoid the word normal because it's not nice. So my dad was watching both boys while I was working West Babylon, and I called home to check on them. And it was at that moment when he saw the phone ringing that he realized he hadn't seen Ryan for a minute or so. And I should say that at the time, Ryan was 5 years old now. So it was a few years into his diagnosis. Mm-hmm. So my dad I was on the phone from West Babylon. My dad went running to the side gate and noticed that it was open. So when my dad said that the gate was open, he ran to the front of the house. He looked down one side of the road, didn't see him. Down the other side of the road, he clearly wasn't in the yard. I said, "Dad, I'm calling 911. I called 911, sped home from West Babylon to Massapequa, and luckily the cops had found my son a few blocks from the house in a park. I didn't realize that children would, I clearly, I know that it could happen with any child, that they could wander or get lost but it started to become very evident that this was something that Ryan was prone to doing. And so when I went studying about autism, I found a lot about it, on the autism sites. 48% of children with autism wander. It's called eloping, actually. I didn't put the word eloping on the cover of my book because people aren't as familiar with it. They think it means to run away and get married. I found out that 48% of children with autism elope. And I went to research books on the subject, and at least looking specifically for that within autism, I wasn't really returning anything that focused on that part of autism, which is a very dangerous part. I mean, 91% of accidental deaths in children with autism are due to drowning, and
Wow.
probably most due to the first part, which is eloping or wandering.
Mhm.
So, as I said, I would be reading back my journals, and I would just find everything that we went through with my son either scary or, sometimes funny. There's a lot of funny things that go on with him too, because he doesn't think the way that we do, and here I am with my boring, typical mind, and I could never get like one step ahead of him. I could never figure out my mind just was not as creative as his to figure out what kind of thing he would get into next. I'm sure the next two authors are going to say the same thing, because when you are a writer, you'll sometimes hear this from people. You should write a book. You should write a book.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that my whole life about one thing or another, before Ryan came into my life. And my answer to that before then was that I never really had anything that I felt passionate about, and now I did. So I took the stories, and I added a beginning, I added an end, and I added my personal, feelings and touches throughout within that too,
Mm-hmm.
and made it into a memoir. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from people on it. People are telling me, words like beautiful story, sweet story. But the greatest compliment so far that I'm getting is people telling me, oh, I learned so much. I learned so much about autism. I had no idea. And, that to me, out of everything, who could ask for more than that? It's spreading the awareness. There's much more that goes into that also, which is, looking for acceptance, hoping for acceptance. You'll encounter some judgments with parents, obviously, since I've had a few scares with my son with getting out and going missing. When there's a news story about it, I will very much be in tune with it, and I will very much be, reading it. And you'll see disgusting comments on, the web. Who can control what's on the web, from people saying these parents need to watch their kids.
Oh my God.
Just, I've read everything. And you think people just don't understand how the type of situations that these children could get into happen within an instant, On top of that, it goes a lot into that, my story with how me and my husband dealt with it in a marriage. We can't take our eyes off our son, obviously. So you can imagine that's exhausting. A lot of people say, oh, I don't take my eyes off my child. Well, the truth is, you don't think you take your eyes off your child, but maybe you don't have a child that challenges that, So it's just, the story of what we've been through. And luckily, so far, knock wood, it has a happy ending. I end the book with an update. I should say that I was done writing the book 4 or 5 years ago, and it took me that long to get it out because I was so insecure about the story. It's so hard to put yourself out there and be vulnerable like that, So the story ended 5 years ago, and I really flip-flopped. Do I want to release it? Do I not want to release it? Do I want to release it? There were points where I was nervous that CPS could come to my door because he has gotten into a few situations, But in the end, I decided to go for it, with the support of my husband and my parents. And So since it was written 5 years ago, I just updated with a little blurb on the last page. It's so small, it's a paragraph. And it just says, this book was completed when he was in kindergarten. He's now in 5th grade. Thankfully, nowadays, dangerous happenings with him are few and far between, but we never take it for granted. We still helicopter parent him regularly. And that is the truth. And also, I never say, oh, he's past that, because I don't need it blowing back. You know, I'm glad he is gradually going in the right direction. We live in a wonderful school district. I can't say enough about it. There's a program that's so beautifully suited for him. The teachers and the administrators in my district, they couldn't be more approachable or collaborative, you know. So he's getting there very slowly, but it's forward. And we just thank God for every day that we lay our heads down at the end of the night and we're given another safe day with him. And he's beautiful. This is him on the cover. Okay.
Oh, fabulous.
Yes.
Fabulous.
This was taken, this is our old fence. I've since gotten a new fence that's not that easy to climb. This was taken during one of his mischievous trying to get out things. Wow. And I just took it with my cell phone camera and never, not thinking I was going to use it for a cover of a book. And then my aunt saw it and she said to me, that would make a great cover. And I'm like, really? I mean, the sweatshirt he's wearing is dirty. His face is dirty. His hair is, but in the end, I did choose it. I did choose this picture, and just means so much to me. The whole book means so much to me. And if I never do anything else other than raise him and his brother to be good humans and release this book, I'm just huge bucket list check off for me for sure.
Boy, do I love hearing that. That is just so fabulous that you got the story out there and that people are reading it and learning more about autism, and maybe even people who are, walking a similar walk and are seeing you, and what a kinship they're able to feel, because I'm sure it's very much alone in many things that you do.
Oh, very isolating. I touch upon that too. Especially the early years before I found my tribe of other moms in my neighborhood, moms that only can understand from having walked the walk themselves. A lot of sad times in the beginning, but I won't say I'm on the other side of it. Every day is learning, but I definitely know why this happened at this point. I definitely, if given the choice, I wouldn't change him. I honestly wouldn't. He's just a love. And so is my brother. So is his brother, from having been raised around it his whole life, so.
Yeah, that's just amazing. Can you talk to me about the title? I'm sorry, Jimmy.
Okay, I'm glad you asked, because that would have been upsetting to me if I didn't mention it. So I'm sorry, Jimmy Muscle. I grew up in Queens, right? There was a boy in our neighborhood. Everybody called him Jimmy Muscle because he kind of like walked like this, always by himself. And he used to come up to people, and I won't imitate his voice because that might sound mean, but in a very slow, drawn out way, say, "Can I feel your muscle?" And a lot of kids picked on him. I did not. I'm happy to say I did not, but I also did not defend him or stick up for him. And, in the 80s, the early 80s, we didn't know about autism,
right.
Or if we did, we didn't know it was autism. And in the beginning of raising Ryan, of getting to know my own son, he would ring familiar to me for some reason, a look in his eye, the way he walked, something. And after 30 years, I started remembering this boy, Jimmy Muscle.
Wow.
Yeah. And I said, oh my God, Jimmy Muscle had autism. Really. And so it just, I didn't want to give it a clinical name. Why my son with autism wanders, I would find myself saying that a lot when I was with Ryan. Like, I'm sorry, Jimmy Muscle, I'm sorry. Like, if I had it to do all over again, honestly, now I'm the biggest advocate for children with autism and children with special needs and disabilities. And so this was just like a nod to him.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Debbie. That's just so beautiful that, you know, it's not just about your son, it's about everyone's son.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All sons and daughters and people who are dealing, and their parents who are the real heroes. You know,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for writing it. And I'm so glad that it's making an impact on people. That's just amazing.
Thank you.
To go in a completely different direction, William Schumpert wrote The Lakeside. And in The Lakeside, he talks about his protagonist who left the city and visited the countryside and went to his old home by the lake, but things are not quite the way they used to be. So please welcome author William Schumpert. Nice to have you.
It's great to be here. And first off, I was born with autism. So yeah, whenever it comes to that, yeah, never give up on them because they still have great potential.
Oh, thank you, William. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for writing out on that. Yeah.
I thank you for, you know, saying that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you. And who knew when we planned this episode?
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about The Lakeside, maybe a little synopsis and how you got to writing this book.
Well, it started a couple of years ago. After graduating college, I wasn't really sure what to do with myself. I graduated with a BA in art and mass communication. And there was one thing that I always had a connection to, that was storytelling. And I was always connected with horror. My grandfather, Papa, the first movie he ever saw in theaters was Phantom of the Opera, original silent film. He told me when they revealed the mask, they showed the Phantom, everybody freaked out. Nobody knew what it was going to look like or anything. And he was just been a fan of classic horror films all of his life. So it's just kind of something that's in me. And whenever it came to writing it, I was thinking that's the hard thing about writing stories in general, especially horror, is how has it not been told. And looking at this, well, I'm not going to spoil anything with it, but you know, I do get a lot of inspiration. I grew up reading horror, especially Goosebumps, and even R.L. Stein on Twitter wished me good luck with my series, which I have hanging right now on my wall, which means a whole lot to me. But you know, you just get inspiration for all kinds of things for this, and even with video games, the video game Silent Hill. And with the story, you have Matt, and he's returning home from city. He hasn't been to in a long time, and he remembers this one birthday they had when he was a child down by the lake. And whenever he's getting there, it starts raining. It starts raining so hard, he almost hits this kid. And the kid turns out he's also heading over to River Falls where he lives. So I decide to help him. And then the rain starts getting heavier and heavier. And he accidentally crashes the car. Looks the kid, make sure the kid's all right. He's not there. And he goes out to look for him, and he finds that River Falls, it's not the place that it was. It's dark, dense fog. There aren't a lot of people there, and there are these strange red eyes that are haunting him all around. And he's trying to get around town to find out just what happened to him. And along the way, he loses sanity, and different things happen all around him. People that he comes to know might have been familiar to him. He doesn't really know what's going on. So it's more of a trapped nightmare. It just took a really long time to write it because originally I'm trying to find a publisher. I couldn't find a traditional publisher of any kind, not to mention the fact that my work wasn't edited right, despite the fact having a BA in art mass communication is just really difficult for me at first, try to get that leverage. so I went with as an independent author with a published website, and with that, didn't work very well with it, and tried too hard, and even lost some of my savings in, say, an embarrassing way, whenever it came to trying to get a setup for payments, and that didn't work. Then switched another time to another independent publisher to where I am today, and had to do a lot of fixing, especially with editing. And it's just something that's not easy. I'm going to tell people who want to get into writing, it's not easy. I have to now, with everything that I work on, I like waking up around 5:15 in the morning, getting in good exercise and whatnot, and then devoting about 3 to 4 hours towards writing. And I have to share it on, you have to connect with people, and it really just got to know them. So if there's anybody out there who's watching this wondering how to get into that kind of business, you really have to know the people there, and you really have to know what you're doing. And when I was in college, I took classes script to screen with director Fritz Kirsch,
Okay.
and he directed Children of the Corn, the late 80s take on it. And he thought I would do good with writing. It's just what it is, you have to have that potential, you have to know what you're doing, literally. And especially with horror, there are these two types of story arcs as described by William Shakespeare. You have a comedy and a tragedy. A comedy has a good ending to it, where it goes to a climax and things are good. A tragedy goes to a climax and it's all downhill. So every one of my stories is pretty much tragedy, and it's just, no matter what genre you write for, you just have to do it because you love it. Even if you don't get sales at first or good comments or anything, it's just something that you enjoy. And you show your work to other people, especially people who enjoy that kind of genre. They're going to show appreciation for it. And you want insight and comments. For the longest time, I didn't get into social media that much. Then when I joined Twitter, I joined the group Horror Family. It helps with promoting my work. We help promoting each other while independent working. So you just have to branch out there.
Absolutely.
That way, people who are out there. And let's see, that was the first novella that I wrote. Since then, I've written 3 others, and then I have a short story series that's similar to Tales from the Crypt.
Okay.
And pretty soon, also be working with audio work and also with Japanese comics, the manga.
Fantastic. I'm so glad you mentioned that, truly you need to write first for you.
Yes.
You're
Yeah,
right.
before you can write for your audience, you have to write for yourself.
You have to write for you. And quite frankly, for many writers out there, that is both the beginning and the end, is that they're doing it for themselves. I mean, there are many things we do in life just for us, but if you can impact one person, like Debbie, you wrote, it took you so long to write, and if just one person can see themselves in your book and their life has changed, you're a success. William, if one person is entertained, frightened, or inspired by your book, you're a success. Don't worry about the 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 masses. You
Yeah.
wrote this book for you, and I think that's so cool. What a gift to yourself to follow your own dream.
Say again?
I said, what a gift to yourself to follow your own dream. It's not about other people. It's about you, and
Oh,
right,
yeah,
because you
definitely.
do it. And that's just really, really awesome. Did I hear you say you write every single morning?
Yes.
How long?
Even
What
though I
time
have
do you
a
wake up and do
day
that?
job, it's just
Right,
a passion that I've committed to.
right. Good for you for getting up early and writing every single day.
Oh, yeah. It's also good for your health. So
I've
it's
heard.
really help.
I'm a night owl myself, but I've
Uh,
heard.
well, I guess it depends on what type of personality you are.
Absolutely. And every
Oh, yeah.
writer has got to find when they're going to write best. And perhaps our next author will be able to tell us how to get into our inner minds a little bit better. Gloria Drewitz wrote Restora Hypnosis, a faith-based journey for spiritual wholeness. I'm certainly hoping as she was writing this, she was centered in a way that maybe some of our authors could use a little help with. So please welcome Gloria. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, I'm delighted to be here, and I'm very happy to speak last because I was so profoundly touched by hearing the other authors. Debbie's journey
Oh,
was really amazing for me. I work with mothers who have special needs children, and I know how God really picks special people to be the parents of
Thank
those
you.
children. And they probably have character traits that are far above us other mortals. So, and I know that a person with that type of diagnosis, a parent, they do not want their child to be stigmatized. They do not want their child to be limited in any way. And William is a great example that no human being should put limitations upon themselves.
yes.
And that's one of the things that I specialize in my work in hypnosis, is helping people free themselves from the limits that may have come from childhood or some type of oppression in their life, something that inhibited their self-esteem. So I have to say how profoundly moved I was to hear about their journey and how much everybody needs a voice in order to heal. And I love the fact that you write about horror. I started in writing groups myself, trying to find my own voice. And I was most inspired by the people that wrote poetry. And some of it was very dark. And, human beings have a very dark side of their soul and psyche, whether we like it or not. And I love the fact that, you can express that. I think a lot of people enjoy watching horror films because maybe they can acknowledge that part of their psyche or themselves. So, I salute both of you. And I'm honored to be in.
Thank you.
Gloria, how did you get involved with hypnosis in the first place? I'm fascinated to hear.
Well, it was a historical accident. I was a single mom and I was looking for a way to support my daughter and have a flexible schedule. And it was the mid 90s, and I started exploring hypnosis and taking courses in New York City, which is a short distance from my house. And I found I had a natural flair for talking to people. And then I got more and more training, and I was amazed at the results that I was getting. People were having great success as a result of working with me. And I was doing a lot of the traditional things, like helping people quit smoking, lose weight, all kinds of phobias. And it grew into a passion for me because actually I was a walking advertisement for everything that I did. I had so many insecurities, and Debbie talked about it too. This self-doubt that you feel about putting yourself out there and being vulnerable. It's very hard. But it's also an opportunity for incredible personal growth. So, it's the challenge of making yourself go to a new level and facing all those fears, facing all those tears, facing all those insecurities, just really makes you grow as a person.
Wow. So after all of your training and experience, what made you decide to write a book?
It was something that I was never thinking about. I always heard the the old saying that, you know, you should plant a tree, have a child, and write a book to be complete. But it wasn't something that I thought about until COVID. And
Oh,
my office was closed for 4 months. My husband was working from home.
mhm.
And, you know, I felt I needed to do something because I was away from working with clients. And I said, how can I help people in a simple way, in a way that's not technical, to empower themselves? And I knew after all my years of working with people that people that had a sense of spiritual self, that believed in God, did much better with anything that they were pursuing. So that's what made me really want to sit down and flesh this out. And I admire the discipline. I know the discipline that writing takes because you're confronting so many inner demons, and somebody that can sit down and write 3 or 4 hours a day. I mean, I think that's extraordinary.
Oh my goodness. I had no idea that yours was, I'll call it a pandemic book. There were a lot of people writing during the lockdown, which of course, I'm thrilled that we have so many people who are kind of turning a negative into a positive and channeling themselves. And now, like you said, now you have it. Now you have this and you can help people in a way that you couldn't help them before. You could reach more people instead of, I mean, you'll go back to the one-on-one, let's say, but you can reach a much wider group of the book. I'm so excited for you doing this. This is great. So,
Thank
what was it like writing your first book with your husband at home? Was it hard to concentrate? Did you have to put on headphones? Tell us a bit about it.
You know, I was during the process, I was very disciplined and I was very focused. And being a hypnotist, we're all about affirmations and giving ourselves positive suggestions. We don't always take them like the rest, but I kept saying to myself, and I kept feeling it in my spirit, you got this.
Yeah.
You got this.
Oh,
And I used a lot of visualization. I kept seeing my cover.
good.
I held that in my mind's eye. And, you know, if you can see it, you can move towards it, just like a GPS.
Yeah.
Not to sound corny, but it really helped me to feel it.
Gloria, you have no idea how much I agree with that. I tell people all the time when they're working on a book and people will say, oh, but writer's block, oh, but distractions. And I say, just what you said, let's work on the cover first. And if we can get a cover and you could put the picture of that cover, you know, where you can see it, or I've even had people who take like a photocopy of what the cover will look like and wrap it around another book so it looks like a book. That inspires you once you can see that book. And it sounds like you can see it even in your head and just kind of manifest and draw it in. That's amazing.
So that was my process. And I did come up with a conceptual type theme because I'm kind of a formula type person. I like a formula. So I had a theme in my head. And I knew I wanted to write about spirituality. I am a trained chaplain, and I was not able to chaplain in the hospital during that time. So I really wanted to help people stay strong, no matter what they're facing, and teach them some ways that they could tune to their higher divine realm and acquire some strength and
Oh,
take control of their internal environment.
that's fabulous. That's fabulous. Tell us a little bit about since the book was released. When was the book released? And how has the reception been? What's been going on?
Well, the book has not been released yet.
Oh, I'm
It,
jumping the gun.
it is available wherever books are sold, but you can pre-order it on Amazon. It
Okay.
will be available shortly, February 20th.
Oh, fantastic.
And, you know, I am planning to do journaling and book discussion books around the 7 pillars,
Oh, great.
which is the theme, because I think journaling and writing is a great way to start, a writing prompt. And it's also a tool that helps you access your unconscious.
Right, right. Oh my goodness, that's great. Well, congratulations in advance. Pre-orders are available now, and Gloria is available for all sorts of book events. I presume online as well. You know,
Yes, yes, they will be, the journaling guide will be available at restorahypnosis.com. That is a few weeks out in coordination with the book, but I'm hoping that people that like to host these types of events, since we're doing a lot of our things online, might really enjoy that as an inner healing journey.
That's fabulous. Oh my gosh. I am so thrilled to have three such different types of authors here. And what was driving the book in each of your three cases, Debbie, with something that was so personal, both with your life today, as well as looking back on your childhood and how that was a common thread throughout. And Gloria, how you were reaching out during this time, especially to an audience that you want to work with and want to work with in a different way and give them more insights. And William, just, you know, from your childhood and loving horror and now getting to be on the other side of the page instead of reading, actually writing.
Yeah.
What an evolution to go from the person who holds the book to the person who writes the book. That is so exciting for the three of you. What tips would you give to our writers out there? Because I would guess between the three of you, we pretty much cover the gamut of the reasons why people might be writing a book. Debbie, what would you say if someone wants to start writing that memoir, whether they have something driving inside, something they want to teach others? How could they get started?
You know, I don't even know. I would say just stick with it and just, you know, be true to yourself and your story and write it as if you're only going to read it, and you could decide later on if you're going to release it. I mean, that's how it happened for me. You know, I didn't write it thinking I was going to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote it to someday look back at it, use it as a barometer for how far my son had come years later, you know. I didn't really start out having an intention to write this book at least, you know. So yeah, I guess I would say to do it for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and not worry about publishing right away. And you know, when you see the finished product, if you feel that it's something that you want to share, you share. And if it's something that you just want for yourself, keep it for yourself or your family or your loved ones.
I am so glad you said that, because too often people jump the gun and they get right to, you know, I don't understand how to do the stuff at the end. Don't worry
Yeah.
about that. Get the story out, start a journal, start writing something. Like you said about not worrying about other people reading it, write what's in your heart and let it flow out. I would think it's so incredibly healing and cathartic to do that. And all of those other things, you'll deal with those when the time comes. Don't get ahead of yourself. I'm so glad you said that. And how did you feel? Was writing the book something that, even before it was really thought of as a book, was it cathartic for you to be able to?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, yeah, because that when you release stuff, you kind of release it, you know. I mean, everywhere, within your bones, within your, you know, your heart.
Oh.
And for me, it was always, you know, whether or not I was going to publish it, I always just thought, if it's nothing else, it's a love letter to my children, to my husband and my parents, all the people that really stuck by us. I mean, there was no one against us, don't get me wrong, but, the people that were very intimately involved, like I said, I mentioned my son's school district earlier, you become very, very close to the people that work with your child, and they're referenced in here a few times. The girls in their 20s that have walked through my door that know way more about autism than I do. I didn't study autism. You know what I mean? The only real thing I have going for me for this child is my love for him. I know nothing about this disorder. I don't. He's the one that teaches me. He's my guide through it. So.
How beautiful. And what a great reason to write. I think that's fabulous. William, what about a fiction writer? Somebody who loves to read, maybe in a particular genre, and they want to get started. What should they do first?
Say again, I'm sorry. A little hard of hearing.
I said a fiction writer, somebody who might love, whether it's thrillers or horror, and they want to start writing. What should they do to start writing, just like you?
Start writing. I mean, that sounds really basic, but that's the best thing you can do is just start writing. And if you run out of ideas, look for inspiration. There's always going to be something there. You never want to make something that's just a ripoff or, try to copy anybody. The words of Pablo Picasso, good artists copy, but great artists steal. You want to steal that moment. You want to steal that opportunity. And whenever it comes to doing that, you can't just do that out of the blue either. Because like I told you earlier, I have a BA in art and mass communication. And I took a lot of studies whenever it came to writing. I also studied philosophy, theology, world history, even basic psychology, just to learn how people think, how to get inside their minds, what makes them scared. Because that's the kind of things I write with. The Lakeside actually got reviews on book reads. One of them saying that it's one of the scariest books he's ever read. You're a horror author, you want to scare people. You write memoir, you want someone to be informed. You write a romance story, you want them to feel love. It's tragic, you want them to cry. You just have so many different emotions to work with. And my advice is you gotta learn about it. What type of genre are you into? Look into that kind of source and how other people have done it. And biggest advice is not easy. You're gonna have to force yourself through hell in order to do any type of writing, published or independent. And just don't give up and don't fall for scams.
Okay, good advice. Now, Gloria, you wrote about something that is both a job and a passion. And this sounds like it's really a passion to you that you wanted to get it out in this book.
Oh, yeah.
How did you get
when
this?
It's a passion, it really changes everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Gloria, what'd you do to get organized and get started? I'm sure you have so much knowledge and you had to get it into a book.
Well, I knew I didn't want to write a technical book, and I was very goal-oriented. I started with the broad, and then I brought it down to the specific. I took notes on placemats, index cards, just didn't worry about organizing. It just had some broad general concepts. And, with baby steps, you can go around the world. It's very easy to get overwhelmed, but every session that you sit down and write should be very focused. You should have a goal you want to accomplish. And if you can do that, it's a great way to grow. And, it's a wonderful experience.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. And it's a great way, I'm sure, even though you were filled with so much knowledge from your own training beforehand, I'm sure there were things you learned in the course of writing the book as well.
I learned to take feedback, and I took a different direction in the book than, and I think that in fact, the few people that have read it, since it's not officially out, have given me their feedback. And I think to get a buzz and get people talking is the greatest thing of all.
Well, we can't wait for a couple of more weeks until your book gets released. Let me just remind our viewers about your books and where they can find them. Debbie Fee's book, I'm Sorry, Jimmy Muscle, Why My Son with Autism Wanders. Whether you are a parent who is dealing with this right now or want a great memoir to look back, maybe like Debbie, you too grew up with someone in your neighborhood and you're trying to figure things out. Grab I'm Sorry, Jimmy Muscle, Why My Son with Autism Wanders. If you want to get scared, grab The Lakeside by William Schumpert. That definitely looks scary to me. That gray, ominous look, I don't want to be there. So if that's what you want, grab that. And in a couple of weeks, I think you said February 22nd?
No, 28th.
20. Okay. Gloria Drewitz's book, Restora Hypnosis, will be available. It is available on pre-order right now. So if you go over to Amazon for any of these books, you'll be able to grab them. Just this one won't be delivered for a few more weeks, but that's okay. The three of you, you've been fabulous. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope that our viewers can follow you, find those books. And to the three of you, if there's a second book in your future, please. Oh, I see Debbie's nodding. I'm excited. Okay, so when the second book comes out, please let me know so you can come back on and keep us posted. And also for any book events, Gloria, I know you mentioned doing events. Please share them with me so that I can share them with our mailing list and audiences and everything.
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome. And thanks for joining us. Between the
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on Between the Covers. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you're an author who would be interested in appearing on our show, or perhaps you're a member of a book club, we do host book clubs as well, please visit BetweenTheCoversTV.com. By the way, at BetweenTheCoversTV.com, you can watch past episodes in addition to learning more about our authors and guests. So sign up there if you would like to be a guest on the show yourself. And if you have some books that you would like to get written or published, visit redpenguinbooks.com. Thanks so much for joining us.